Hi, welcome to the Dieku podcast. I'm Gary Snow. Today I'm pleased to welcome two people whose names I'm sure you'll be familiar with in the TTRPG space. J.M. DeFoggi, who's a longtime creator and well known for the Jackals Bronze Age game, and now has the role of Savage Universe Community Manager. Chris Landauer, is the Director of Marketing for Pinnacle Entertainment Group, the folks that have brought us Savage World system, and that's been described as fast, fun, and furious. So, gentlemen, welcome.
Thanks for having us, Gary.
Thanks. Yeah, this is awesome.
Well, I'm really pleased you can join us today. We want to talk about the Savage Universe program or initiative and what it can do for game designers. I know a lot of my audience are aspiring game designers, and I think you've got a program that really is going to be interesting to a lot of people. So we're going to talk all about that. But first of all, Landauer, the Savage World is a universal system. It's incredibly versatile, and people really appreciate that it's kind of got that Goldilocks zone where it allows quick and easy gameplay and has just enough crunch to keep you satisfied. Would you mind giving us a brief history of how Savage Worlds came to be?
Sure. It's definitely the anytime, any place, anyone, any setting rule system. Like you mentioned before, we design goals is to keep it fast and furious and of course fun. The interesting thing about Savage Worlds, it uses the standard fantasy dice, but they explode, they ace, which is a kind of a fun way of keeping things fresh. Exciting the table. We use playing cards for initiative, which there's some skeptics, but once you try it, it's really great. It keeps things. There adds a tactical layer to initiative on how you can put yourself in a different order. There's actually abilities to spend bennies to move yourself around with that, or to take edges that lets you kind of game the system on where you might end up in initiative. But by not having completely standard routine, same every round initiative, that kind of does change your tactics and keeps that part of the game fresh too, which you get player buy-in and attention. And then bennies, short for benefits. These are a meta currency where players basically can have a means of redoing roles, getting more PowerPoints, getting extra cards for initiative. This is the Benny economy is kind of a very important concept in Savage Worlds that really gives player agency, whether it's plot, narrative, or mechanical advantage in the game. Our most famous setting, kind of where the game derived out of, is Deadlands, the Weird West. It is a wonderful alternate history take on the Western genre with weirdness and mysticism and magic, and kind of like larger than life historical monsters and rail barons and just all this goodness. If you really want to take the daddy of the Weird West genre, it is Deadlands, and that kind of grew out of the Great Rail Wars board game, and from Deadlands and kind of streamlining that system to be a little more universal came Savage Worlds. We also are licensed to other major properties. Bringing Savage Worlds versions of Rifts and Pathfinder are two of the big ones. Those are current top sellers and a lot of friendly camaraderie with those communities. We do unique kind of settings, very niche things that are very fun to explore, very different than other people are doing, like Holler, an Appalachian Apocalypse, which is kind of takes the Appalachian mythos and adds in a little bit of horror elements to it, and you can kind of have a rebellious fairy tale inspired game that is very authentic too, because our writer for that, Tim Early, is a son of Appalachia. Let's see, other great stuff like some other fun licensed properties, things like Flash Gordon are great. There's the whole Weird Wars line where you can pick anything from Weird Wars Rome to the World Wars to Vietnam, and play in kind of the yes, the world is at war or your empire is at war, but there is also weirdness in the world. A lot of the Savage World settings kind of bring in alt historical plus weirdness, which gives a very, very fruitful kind of genre mashup of giving you accessibility to real history and familiarity, but also giving you an access of freedom to have adventures and craft your own stories and be your own heroes. East Texas University is one of our great settings, which is Buffy goes to college, and we just did a version of that is set in middle school called Pine Box Middle School. That'll be arriving in retail here pretty soon. One of our superheroes. So as you're flipping through on the screen now, you guys can see that these are from the companions. The companions are a little more deep dives, intensive kind of rule sets and narrative ideas for different major genres people might want to play. So we've got a fantasy companion. This is the superpowers companion. There is a horror companion. Up next, I think in the lineup is going to be the sci-fi companion. That is a cover from our previous edition of the Sci-Fi Companion, and we'll be bringing that to Suede. Suede is Savage Worlds Adventure Edition. That is the current rule set of the game. One of the great, even within kind of those companions, we've got like Necessary Evil, which is a super villain setting. Kind of the superheroes of the world have been wiped out by an alien invasion, and so the super villains must rise to save the Earth. And so yeah, there's just a lot of really great things going on with us as a company. I'm really excited to be part of the team, and part of that is bringing in JM. So I can let him talk for a minute or two.
Yeah, so JM, the idea behind it, you've got all these different amazing like settings that are in the Savage World systems. You got the rule set, and now you've got a lot of people that you've had a long program, I believe, to have aces and people make settings for the Savage World system, but you've kind of consolidated it in the Savage World universe.
Yes. So Pinnacle has had a amazing and very generous licensee relationship for a very long time. One of the things when I was first brought on, that they were like, make sure you always are stressing this, and I think it's true. It's not just a marketing point, but when you write for Savage Worlds, we want to hear from you. It's a bridge. It's not a doorway that you just have to walk through and then who knows what's going on. So we really have 4 levels of licenses. If you want to produce something for Savage Worlds and give it away for free, there's the fan use license. Like, we want people making cool things for Savage Worlds. We do an event in February, Fast Furious Fun February, where the community comes together and puts together some free stuff for everyone in the Savage Worlds community to use. The next kind of tier up is what we call the Savage Worlds Adventuring Guild, or the swag license. And this is if you want to put something out on DriveThruRPG and make some money at it. I actually just reviewed on my personal channel this morning, Atomic Ninja Studios' Dead End. They took Savage Worlds and made it a survival horror zombie game, and they did just an amazing job with it. So I just love talking about this. This is the Savage Universe site. If you go to savageuniverse.com, all of this information that I'm about to rattle off is there. So so the fan license, you just have to put the fan product logo on there. If you go over to the swag tab, you can sell things on DriveThruRPG. DriveThru takes a cut. Savage Worlds Pinnacle takes a very small percentage, and the rest goes to you. And I think one of the best part of all of our license is you retain all of the intellectual rights to your product. So if Hollywood came to Atomic Ninja Studios and was like, hey, we want to make a Dead End movie, awesome, like, via con Dios, like, that is your property to go do whatever you want with. And then we have if you want to do a podcast like you're doing and do an official Savage World podcast, or a stream, or actual plays, we just ask that you put the little Savage Worlds Media Network logo on there. There's some licensee text, but it lets you use art and things in the stream, and it just helps us gather everybody who is actually producing content for Savage Worlds. I update the calendar weekly. I put up all of the streams that we know of. We have under the Savage Worlds Media Network tab, a little broadcast tower. Those are all of the YouTube channels that we know that are actually putting out Savage Worlds content. And last but not least, we have the ACE license. And the ACE license takes a little bit more to get, but essentially we want to see what people are doing with the ACE license. The ACE license allows you to go to Kickstarter, allows you to print a physical product, put together a book. And for that, we just want to ensure that your writing, your rules, your layout, and your presentation are of a caliber that not only you'll be proud of, but we'll be proud to highlight and show off. So the ACE license is has one or two more hurdles than the other three, but I would say don't be discouraged, because like I said, this is a bridge. If you submit for an ACE license and we go, hey, here's, we don't think you're ready for the ACE license yet, we're going to walk you through all of the reasons why. And what we really want people to do is not see that as well, I guess I can't do anything with the ACE license, but to see, okay, here's what a professional publishing company is telling me I need to work on. And we want you to resubmit to us. Like we don't want to say no to anyone. We just want to say, hey, if the books are in print, we're holding them and ourselves to a standard of quality, so our fans know what they're getting. So on Savage Universe, every week I put out articles for new swag products, new ACE products, new streams. I do a stream every Thursday on Pinnacle's channel to talk about what's going on in the Savage Universe. We have a list of all of our ACEs, so if there's something you like there, you can just go to Savage Universe and find all of our ACEs and all of their products. We're linking directly to their sites, to their product pages. The calendar has the list of all of the events, and we're trying to get cons and like online games put together. You'll see, we have tonight, I think, Blasted Beauty, Knights of the Smith Dinner Table are finishing up their Reign of Winter game. So yeah, this is the goal is that this is the one-stop shop for all things Savage World licensee. And what's cool about Pinnacle is a lot of companies have licenses that allow you to use their product. It's not necessarily a unique idea, but I don't know of any other company in the industry who is saying we're going to throw manpower and effort into signal boosting anyone who wants to be a licensee. Like if you're a fan, if you're making a free fan product and you want people to come and take a notice, at the bottom of the page there's a contact email, info@savageuniverse.com. That comes directly to me. I'm booked on Savage Universe through the middle or end of November at this point. And again, it doesn't matter if you're doing a stream, if you're doing a free product, if you've got a new book coming to Kickstarter that uses Savage Worlds, or you have something going up on DriveThruRPG, I want to talk with you about it. Spend a half hour to an hour just chatting and letting the community know what's going on. They're some of our most watched streams, the Savage Universe streams are.
And I think, as you mentioned, like for an aspiring game designer, one of the biggest hurdles that people tend to have is being able to get their game out there in the public space and market it. And, you waste a lot of time, pitching on social media. And sometimes you just feel like you're just like screaming into the darkness. And Savage World Universe or Savage Universe allows you to signal boost them and get their game made. And there's a built-in community. I know I've heard a lot of people talk about the fact that you go to a convention and you hear like screaming and hollering and all that kind of stuff. And you look over and there's the Savage World tables of all those types of games, because it's like a fun game to play and there's a big community around it. And I know that I've had Tim Early, who made Holler, on my show, and I interviewed him, and I really loved that game. And I know that I think his game originally was just being played as like a swag product. And then what was the story of the evolution of like how that swag product became even more part of the Savage World universe?
So I think it kind of all goes back to community. The way I got into Savage Worlds was that at a local convention, there was a group of gamers who were early adopters of Savage Worlds and really loved it and started running the games. And I just happened to be there playing a different system at the time. And I was like, wait a minute, there's all these games. Look at all these interesting kind of RPGs you can play. What is this Savage World stuff? So I became a fast fan, and it turned out that this local group, the Rocky Mountain Savages, we're in Denver, and Shane Hensley, he's our founder and spiritual leader of Savage Worlds, and he's very close over in Arizona. And the guys who had started running the Rocky Mountain Savages invited him to come to the convention, and a wonderful kind of community blossomed here in Colorado from that. Just the low key but awesome participation of the kind of the founder of this awesome game, and then the initial game masters who were running a wide variety of kind of RPG content. And so the legacy from that was just this great little Savage Worlds community got started here, and we spearheaded kind of growing that community. And Tim happened to be here in Colorado for, I think, continuing studies. I think his wife's doctorate. She was here at the University of Denver, and so he kind of got into the Denver gaming scene. And you can't miss us. We're a huge rowdy presence, as you mentioned. It is kind of funny. There definitely is this sense of certain living play system people at conventions are very serious about their games, and they're very quiet, and just did I play enough games before this to get to my character where I wanted to be? And then us Savages are just I don't want to say rude. We are a rambunctious group who really enjoy the games we're playing. And I think that kind of comes from the game system. There's elements in Savage Worlds like the exploding dice, and where when you roll the top number on a dice, you get to keep rolling. So damage can really explode kind of fantastically, and attacks can explode.
Drawing a Joker.
Right, and the Joker. So in the card initiative realm, the best card to get is the Joker, because it means you get to go first or whatever you do want to go, and you get +2 to your rolls. So when those appear, everyone shouts out Joker, and players at the table get bennies. Everyone on the player team gets bennies when one of your allies or compatriots gets a Joker. So there are these kind of surprise elements that keep Savage Worlds on your toes, kind of fast. It is people will say swingy. Just because it's not, the game design concept isn't really, ablative damage that just keeps going, it's consistent. Like, okay, I'm going to do 5 to 10 damage every time this monster has 100. So it's going to take us, me 5 rounds, or 2 of us, 2.5 rounds or whatever. That it's not that kind of feel. You can get, critical failures, and then obviously acing and raises are kind of a critical success metric. So, it keeps the game fun and exciting, and just the ability to have these larger than life heroic settings. Even though there's a lot of horror in our games, and even then, the table will get real quiet. But then, either someone gets murdered drastically, or there's a great success against the monsters, and that's how you find us. So Tim kind of joined part of that community, and because Shane is so generous, and all the folks at Pinnacle have worked so hard to make it not only a welcoming community, but a welcoming license. It was very easy to onboard him from hey, this is a great idea to play at a convention, to you really need to publish this for Savage Worlds. Let's do some introductions. Let's get the wheels rolling. So, several of us out here in the Denver community became fast and volunteer cheerleaders for Tim and Holler. And we're very proud to see just kind of what that's become. It's so great seeing that kind of go from being a game we got to play with the guy whose idea it was when it was just a draft manuscript to a fully arted, glorious. There's the deluxe edition cover, the human
Sasquatch
skin.
Sasquatch
skin. That's been a very exciting thing, just watching. And Tim brought a lot of writing chops to the table too. He's an acclaimed poet to start, so it wasn't too hard. Not that other folks at Pinnacle and Tracy, who did a great job, kind of spearheading the publication side, didn't have work to do, but it was a lot of really great material to start with. And if you look the art for Holler is kind of a very great choice. I think it's the other great thing I just love about the work that that Shane and Simon and Jody and Clint do is JM mentioned this we want to put out quality products. So recently we've won awards for the design and layout of the work that we've done with Pathfinder, and which is in addition to bringing our rule set to the Pathfinder universe, how do we take all of that gorgeous art that Paizo had commissioned and all of those great artists and do them justice by making super gorgeous books that are high quality, whether it's making sure we have the right kind of hardback, the higher quality, thicker paper, the ribbons we put in the books, the layout. And those are just things that are, I think, important to kind of one, provide a great product in the marketplace, but two, when we've got other folks who want to produce, those are questions like, hey, I've got an idea for a game. I don't know anything about getting a real product printed, and could you help us? And the answer is yes. Or the community aspect of just I got to name drop Carl Kiesler because JM just got to meet him this last weekend. We could have crashed Gamehole Con as a kind of a fun let's get the Pinnacle folks and the Savage Worlds folks out to one of the bigger conventions. And Gen Con is just so big it's hard to make any kind of splash there, but it was kind of fun to go to make Gamehole our big convention for the year. And Carl Kiesler, he works in professional advertising for his day job, but he just does amazing things with layout and art direction.
Yes.
And he's been such a kind of a wonderful community resource for folks on hey, I want to get my Jumpstart out or just a PDF out. How do I make it look pretty? And so what you see on the screen now is our style guides. These are the tips on how to incorporate Savage Worlds rule set into your production, what things you need to capitalize, what terms need to be italicized, but it's also just kind of just general writing style stuff, like whether it's use the present versus past tenses or those kind of things, just to kind of keep a consistency of tone, in with so many other creative minds all working with the same system. So and the style guide is free on our website, peginc.com. So that's where you'll also find all of
it's also on savageuniverse.com.
There we go, both of them. And so just big picture, peginc.com is where we've got all the things we produce in-house and sell. We do a lot of crowdfunding, so we're on Kickstarter, and we'll be bringing a board game called Doomguard, hopefully to GameFound early in the next year. JM got to demo that at Gamehole Con too. And then we wanted to create Savage Universe just because it's the amazing thing about that Clint and Shane and Simon and the crew. There is an extensive back catalog of material. It has been Savage Worlds is 2 decades old. Deadlands is 25 years old. And then just a prolific amount of creative content that is already out there that you can still purchase, which kind of sets us apart from a lot of other companies kind of in similar size to ours. We're not, we play like a big company, but we're not a big company. And but there's just so much material already out there, which is kind of unique. I think other similar companies, you'll look and they might have 2 or 3 lines or maybe 3 products at any one time, and we've got 1,000 SKUs plus that you can are still there. And so by opening the door to community content creators, we figured they're just going to get lost in the peg page, trying to highlight them and allow them to have their content highlighted. So that's kind of really why we wanted to do SavageUniverse.com, because we produce Savage Worlds, but they are the universe, so little space theme. Just making sure that they get the highlight that they deserve, and kind of the one-stop shopping for them. Just so we can point people to the Savage Worlds Adventurers Guild on DriveThruRPG, but also for if folks aren't there and they're doing Kickstarters or they're doing podcasts or all the other things that you can do to interact with our community. We figured, hey, we should have a place for them that's got its own branding and and their own manager, the actual a staff person who's attentive to them. So.
Well, I know I have a folder of tons of Savage World products, and there is a diverse range of settings, genres, just overall scope. But I guess one of the questions from an aspiring game designer that like goes, hey, I've got an interesting setting. I don't really know that much about Savage Worlds, the rule set, so to speak. I'm sure probably the best thing they can do is actually just play the game to learn it. But apart from that, like one of the areas that might be a little bit confusing is like coming up with edges, and where does the design of the setting leave off, and where does the core rules fill that gap, and where do you find your edge of like, these are the rules and this is my setting?
So I think one of the big things that Savage Worlds does really well than other generic role games, and actually I think this is really where a swag or an product catches my eye, is we have what are called setting rules. And if there are themes or important goals to have in your setting, we mechanize those. We say, okay, well, if this is what you're going for theme-wise with your setting, or this is an important action in your setting, they need to be codified in a set of rules. So, for example, Deadlands uses fear levels. So, because it's such a big deal that my brain just died. The Four Horsemen. What are they called in?
The Servitors.
We'll edit this out in post. What are they called in Deadlands? The Reckoners.
Reckoners, yeah.
The Reckoners. Yeah, they're trying to increase the fear level and turn the world into one giant Deadland. So that is actually a mechanical setting rule, how fear levels work. In this zombie product that I was just reading about, they have a rule for amputation and how horrific it is both for those people watching and for the person undergoing it. But if you've watched any survival zombie movie like The Walking Dead or Night of the Living Dead, that's the key component to getting the theme right. And I think tailoring your setting rules go much farther for me than having a cool edge or a cool hindrance or a new race to make the setting come alive. The setting rules are how you as a game designer tweak the core mechanics of the game to fit within your setting.
Yeah, we've got a amputation setting rule in Buccaneer, which is a mystical pirate setting. It's a little nicer. Like in that setting, we kind of envision we want the pirate genre is got the plenty of handy capable people who have a missing eye, an arm, a leg, you name it. So how do we encourage that behavior and those characters and going that way versus other kind of systems? And we're like, well, wait a minute. Maybe if you elect, if you're seriously enough wounded, but you elect them to take the leg, you've got a much better chance of your character surviving kind of the wound process. But you get your awesome peg leg afterward. And so I think that for us the in general setting rules, I think, is where you start at. Maybe it's not where you start, but you kind of have to have a grasp of how other mechanics work in Savage Worlds, so to pick and choose what setting rules you want. But looking at the setting rules for various settings that you like playing, or something similar to kind of what you want to create, and seeing how other game designers adapted Savage Worlds to that genre. And I think that's setting rules in general are a very important part of how Savage Worlds can be universal or generic. I mean, it's hard coming up with terms that sound great for adaptability. And hey, I know the rules. It's a language I speak, but there's poetry and there's prose and there's it needs to be different. So so setting rules for poetry would be things like whether it's an iambic pentameter or what kind of rhyme scheme you want. Or in prose, like is it business writing, or is it informal writing, or is it a public address speech, and so it's what those elements you want to turn on and off in the rule set or modify in the rule set to make horror feel horrific. So, for instance, one of the great horror games I played in, I mentioned bennies. Bennies are this meta mechanic that give you a lot of player agency. In general, if you're playing up your hindrances, the game master should be giving you bennies for having your character suffer the consequences of whatever those hindrances are, or playing into being a greedy or being heroic or those kind of things. hindrances aren't necessarily bad things, like obligations and vows are hindrances. So they're ways that your character should be playing or interacting with the world. If you do that, you get bennies, or if a Joker comes out, you get bennies, or a lot of times if you tell really funny jokes at the table, you'll get a benny. The GM
reinforces bad behavior with bennies.
Right, it's true. It is very Pavlovian, click and treat kind of behavior, which is also great because you can steer things away. So one way to like make a very horrific game that isn't over the top in kind of the access to heroism and overcoming it is, hey guys, you're going to get your starting bennies for this game session, but that's it. They're a precious resource for the next 2.5 hours. Be careful. And bennies are also, you spend a benny when you were wounded to soak those wounds. And that's another thing too, like by not having hit points that kind of vary as you go along. The bennies are a mechanic that characters can take damage again, or negative status effects, but then also absolve their characters of those mechanically. And so when you limit the bennies, you also limit the longevity and how much damage your character can take. And so that is a fantastic little setting rule that you can turn on to be like, yes, this game is deadly. And or even things like a non-mechanical setting rule. Same, you're in that genre. If you're the you are an inmate in an insane asylum, but the zombie apocalypse has happened and you're breaking out. So there's deep questions about kind of all the horror themes going on. The whether or not like table talk. Setting one of the games was like, hey guys, I want you for the next 2.5 hours to talk as your character only. So we're any meta conversation, we'll take a break or whatever and have it away from the table. But the talk through your characters, have dialogue in character between characters. Versus kind of regular role-playing games where it's a little lighter than that, right? A little more freedom, and everyone's telling Monty Python jokes every 2.5 minutes. And that is a setting rule that has no mechanical effect, but has a strong narrative guiding force to say this is going to be a horrific game. Let's pay attention and keep the stakes kind of ratcheting up as we get injured, as you lose resources. So I think that's where you can really set your 1930s pulp, awesome made-up city game separate from another kind of similar, whether it's a 1930s pulp genre that's in the jungle or whatever, or it's another kind of alt history. Your choice in setting rules is really kind of allows the feeling and the flavor of your game to come to the forefront. So.
And each of the companions comes with a lot of setting rules that are not meant to be used at all times. They're used as guidelines to say, hey, if you're doing, is Brian Reeves who does the little set genre write-ups? Like he'll say, like, if you want dark fantasy, here are some setting rules to consider using in your game. So the companions really help broaden the scope of Savage Worlds for a broad genre, but then also show you how to focus back in and narrow it for a specific subgenre.
Right, like if you wanted to play Flash Gordon versus Battlestar Galactica, right? Like, well, both are ships in space, but the feeling of those are very, very different, right? I mean, you would not mistake Battlestar Galactica for Flash Gordon, even though on like the sci-fi mechanical parts, how you want to interact with flying ships and space travel and resource management might be very, very similar. One game has swords that have to compete with laser guns, and another game doesn't. And one game is much more serious, and there's the being stalked aspect of it versus trying to overcome the evil empire aspect. And so that's how those two, on the surface, similar kind of settings would play and feel very different at the table. Would just be on what kind of setting rules that are get turned on and turned off.
I find it interesting that two big properties of Rifts and Pathfinder, who I know the complaint of, and you guys don't have to answer this because of your relationships with Palladium and Paizo, that as far as crunch goes, and I know for myself, I love the setting of Rifts. and I used to play it as a teenager, and it's just like an amazing setting. But then you get into the rules, and it's just so hard to GM because you're juggling so many different aspects. But the Savage Worlds version of it simplifies a lot of that crunch.
Yeah, there is an elegance to Savage
That's
Worlds.
what brought me into Savage Worlds. Yeah. Oh,
keep going, Jim. No, you go.
I was just gonna say that's what brought me into Savage Worlds. Was Savage Rifts. I saw the Kickstarter and I was like, I love the Rift setting. I don't know that I want to go back to the system necessarily, and I don't know that I could get my players to go back to the system because I played it a lot in the 90s and early 2000s, and I was like, well, I've heard of Savage Worlds. Let me give this a shot, and I completely fell in love with their take on the Rift setting and the way that I could see where they took assumptions or implicit mechanics of Rifts and found a way to convert them into something that was fast and fun.
Yeah, and I look at it like kind of fusion food. The our goal with these really great partnerships isn't to take away customers. It's to just share the best parts of what they're doing with our audience, right? And a big part of our audience are folks that have come to like how our rule set plays out. And that's really not to the detriment or exclusion of these other great rule sets and world building. It's just simply, a preference for kind of how those games play out. And so with Rifts, I think you've got a really awesome history of so much world building there, and their fan base is awesome and rabid, and still loves playing that rule set, and they're producing new material in that rule set. And there's to us the great thing about it. I think just the culture Shane has built of the company. Like building the bridge. It's not a one-way door. Those kind of things. I think that is also building trust with other game designers, and just even looking at Rifts, there is just the fact that Sean Owen Roberson came from the Savage Rifts line and is now a major part of Palladium. I just think just goes to show the great part of it's a small community, even though there's a lot of fans out there. It's a small community. It's close knit. There aren't that many degrees of separation. I don't think that there's any downside to, hey, let's have your peanut butter and our chocolate for your the amazing world building you did, and also just the mechanical stuff too, man. There is the great thing about Savage Pathfinder is that there are mechanical elements from Pathfinder that when we had to adapt that for Savage Worlds, we found out, well, maybe we should add some of these things to Savage Worlds. Like, we didn't really have some of these mechanics in Savage Worlds before, but hey, these things we'll need for Savage Pathfinder, and hey, they play tested so well. Let's put them into our fantasy companion. In a little more universal kind of version. Because that typifies the fantasy genre and what it means to be a gamer in fantasy. So for us, I think they're very positive. More Rift material has gotten produced because Savage Rules decided to help pick up the torch, and the crossover between the two. Their recent Titan Robotics Kickstarter, they decided as one of their stretch goals was to add Savage Worlds content to the new stuff they're producing. And then likewise in Pathfinder. Mike Barbeau and the team did such a great job with Savage Pathfinder, and Paizo really noticed, and they gave Mike the ability to, hey, we approve you. You have gotten the blessing to create new content in the Galarian universe, and that's just a really a testament to kind of building trust and bridging communities. That our goal isn't to grab Pathfinder players and struggle bust them over to Savage Worlds and, hey guys, you need to play our system. It's much more, hey, when we're at conventions having a whole lot of fun, like we could do that in Galarian too. So
I saw that Palladium announced Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and I was like, oh, next time.
I think it's great. I mean, the thing is that there are some great stories from that team about the history of the properties they've got to play with, whether it's was it Jerry Bruckheimer who was going to do the movie for the first movie that didn't materialize, and the Deadlands movie that has never materialized, as well as it's not as easy to get a movie as you might think. But yeah, them going back to that property, there's so much nostalgia kicking in with, they're bringing back Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and oh my god, they got the art, and fun design choices there. I really wish them well on their new Kickstarter. So that for us, there isn't nearly the. I mean, there are genre wars and rule set wars kind of. For us, we look at that much more favorably. It's we play these other games. Just because we've fallen into the comfort of the system we really like. We're always playing other systems and other games and other IPs, and sometimes we just want to share that with the community and the friends we built in our rule set. It's a little more comfortable in the language that we speak, the dialect of the language we speak. So, for us, those are exciting things. Those are kind of opportunities to grow Savage Worlds, not just the community, but also kind of the scope of the IPs that we want to tackle. I mean, if you think about it, both Rifts and Galarian are very similar to Deadlands in the sense that there is a deep history, a multiple decade history of world building. Multiple authors over the years have contributed. They are bigger than any one person, and they are also very compelling. They are interesting, challenging worlds to tell stories in, to be heroes or be anti-heroes. And so just being able to have, why rebuild that from scratch when we can just make friends and say, hey, can we borrow your car for an afternoon of drag racing? So yeah, we're excited about those.
And so, Jam, like, how long has the Savage Universe been open, and kind of have you encountered any kind of pitfalls, or has it just all been good so far? Like, learning process?
It's all been great so far. We launched it in February or March this year. I was brought on in January to kind of help shepherd it into existence, and a big shout out to Chris Valentine, who worked tirelessly with me, and every week I'm like, hey Chris, I need you to rebuild the site for me because I got a new article or a new ace or a new calendar entry, and he just does a great job with it. It's been very positively received by the community, both the site and the Savage Universe streams. Like I said, I get requests every week. Hey, can you write an article for Savage Worlds or for Savage Universe about this? Can I jump on the Savage Universe stream on Thursday? So every Thursday, generally at 7 Eastern, excuse me, at 7 Eastern, we jump on the PEG stream across all the PEG locations, and we highlight somebody in the community. And we get a lot of people who come out for the streams. But as Landauer said earlier, it's also just, we have amazing communities. If you want to get involved in the Savage Universe, one, reach out to me, please. I love talking about Savage Worlds with people. And also, it's my job, so it's just amazing. But also check out, there's the official Savage Worlds Discord, the unofficial Savage World Discord, and the Gaming with Gage Discord. So those three communities, you're going to find people who are willing to play test. You're going to find people who are willing to comment and give feedback or answer any questions. The unofficial Savage Worlds Discord has so many swag and ace members that it is a untapped trove of how to get started and how to publish in the Savage Worlds arena. If you want to try Savage Worlds or you want to play test a new product that you have coming out, Gaming with Gage's Discord server, every Monday night, they are running a Savage Worlds game. It's Savage Worlds Adventure Night is Monday nights. You just sign up on their sheet. They don't care who you are. They don't care what game you're going to play. You're going to find 2 to 7 people who want to play and try something. And so those 3 servers, as part of the Savage Universe community, I cannot stress highly enough that if you want to get involved in it, either as a player or a game master or a game designer, those are resources, and they're some of the most welcoming and friendly people you're ever going to meet.
And the community at large, like I mean, they seem to just be like a completely welcoming environment at any convention, and it's always like pull up a chair, grab some dice, let's have some fun. And so I know, just it's kind of observing things, it just seems like one of those places that let's just have fun, let's game.
Yeah, I think that's the nice thing about Savage Worlds, and why I think it is particularly amenable to convention games is it's approachable by new players. I think veterans in the RPG sphere, we love some Baroque rule sets too, like the things that take some time to get into, and but there is a kind of a design ethos in Savage Worlds of that the fast and fun part is to keep the basic rules simple enough that a new person can be engaged and participate if they just have a character sheet in front of them. You don't have to be a rules expert or deeply inured into the multiple classes or whatever to really just be able to sit down and play. That is a very forward kind of design ethic in the rule set. So it does allow us to welcome folks in. I mean, I think part of the the wonderful thing about some of the more dense rule sets is you do create these awesome fan bases, but that takes time, right? It takes time, and it takes a lot of education of new players by a lot of game masters out there to get people up to speed. And when you've learned those more crunchy or involved systems, those can be great. They can have a lot of flavor. Savage Worlds, I think, does that by just making sure that the entry, the welcome to this system is as easy to onboard folks as possible, by just the right amount of mechanical. So I think just like you might just think, oh, it's just going too rules heavy. Well, no, it's not. A lot of times, it's very, I think, also equally hard to introduce players to purely narrative kind of game RPGs when they don't know that they have the agency to interact, even if it's very free form and there aren't a lot of dice or rules involved. Those can be very intimidating as well, and hard to get people into the right sense of agency. So like going back to Benny's, because it is a major part of our design kind of fun, is that gives players agency, whether it's over narrative or over how their character responds to threats or how their character goes after things. Hey, does my character have 10 feet of rope? Hey, spend a Benny, and the answer is yes. It's easy for that to kind of get player involvement in on a very basic level. So I think that's one of the appeals for us is like I've long said I'm a big GURPS fan. GURPS was a system that I went to because it's like, hey, I want to play an Arabian Nights game, and no one was really producing one. There was Al-Qadim that D&D had, but there was like I don't need orcs in my Arabian Nights game. I just want to play an Arabian Nights game. So do I have to go through and strip out all the fantasy stuff that these wonderful people put into their flavor of the game? GURPS they had a book. They had an Arabian Nights splat book that you could add that to their system, and so that was what drew me to that system. And similarly, I think for Savage Worlds, it's the ability to approach those multiple systems, but have the core a rule set that is familiar and easy to use. And so I think that's our big appeal, is that anytime, any place, any genre, any character, but make those meaningful, not just everything for everything's sake or kitchen sink for kitchen sink's sake. So
as we come to the end of our time together, what do you got cooking? You got Hollerween coming up, and
Hollerween is our free community online virtual convention. We started it 4 years ago to kind of announce Holler as a thing that we wanted to bring to the world. And with Holler's success, we've kept it going every year. This year it's a little more laid back and subdued and easy because we just got back from Gamehole Con, which was an opportunity we didn't want to pass up. But we didn't choose their dates. And so folks are a lot of PEG staff went to GameholeCon. So the
hence my yawning.
Right, you get some con cred, poor JM. I'm amazed you're even able to talk after having to demo Doomguard for the whole convention. Hollerween tabletop.events is kind of where we organize that. So you can kind of pegging.com. There's the news. We put out a newsletter every Tuesday. So after we pop off here, I'm going to help finish up the newsletter and get that out to folks. You can sign up for our newsletters, so that comes out every Tuesday, and you'll see announcements there. So in our recent news section, you can see the Hollerween article to get all the links you want. There's game submissions are still open. It's a free convention. So just grab a badge, grab some tickets, free tickets to play in those games. And the wonderful game masters are running those all online. So we're gonna, with the help of Discord and the virtual tabletops. That's another thing too, is all of our products we eventually have come out on all the BTT programs, platforms. So that's another kind of, hey, let's go universal. Let's be open and accessible. So even before the pandemic, we were all in on the BTTs, but I think that was one thing that when we couldn't do the conventions and meet in person, and bring in new fans and share new properties, the BTT kind of saved us all. So we're thankful that that industry is thriving. Other big things. So right now on Kickstarter is the Night Train 25th anniversary. That has gone amazingly well. I think it's over 100,000 and 1,600 backers. John Goff is one of the OGs. He helped get Shane into role playing when they were at college together, and his most infamous adventure is called Night Train, which not a huge spoiler, but it is the horrific Weird West, and there is a train full of very specific bad guys. But if you come back to campaign, it'll be immensely clear what they are, and it's kind of one of those the rare TPK kind of adventures for Savage Worlds that is kind of infamous for. You go at it multiple times with multiple parties to see if you can crack the crazy nut that is the very, very difficult campaign, and it's kind of grown into a mythic status from there. So it is the 25th anniversary of that adventure, which predates Savage Worlds. It was in the original Deadlands RPG rule set, and so this is the first time it's coming to Suede. And then in the new year, I think in January on GameFound, we're looking to kick off Doomguard, which is an outgrowth of our Superpowers Companion. So for folks who back the Superpowers Companion and are familiar with like the Necessary Evil world, is the supervillains trying to save the world. There is an extension of that called the Doomguard, which are supervillains and some superheroes who are facing some existential threats from the likes of Cthulhu. And so it's supervillains versus Cthulhu, and there was a little taste of that during our Superpower Companion campaign that you can pick up an adventure or two that are set in that world. And we are bringing that to the board game space. Mike Barbeau, who you might remember from Savage Pathfinder, kind of in his own, he actually started as an ace as well. So he actually published, I think it was Guardians of Umbra, I think was his setting, which is kind of a cool multi-genre fantasy with stompy robots and fun setting. So again, it's a bridge, folks. Start on the bridge, cross it, join us. One of us, Weeble Wobble.
One of us. Yep.
That's very exciting that it's going to be a big board game release, and then there's a lot more Deadlands on the horizon. Shane just got back from a trip to the Pacific Northwest where he's polishing some content for. We've been doing kind of hopping around the country, doing regional source books for Deadlands on different areas of the country, and there's several more in that series over the next couple of years that we're putting out. We just did one on the High Plains, which is kind of the everything from the land of corn to the Rocky Mountains, and this next one is the Pacific Northwest. Yes, it's Hell on the High Plains. There it is. The next one is the kind of the Pacific Northwest area of the country, and so we have to have Sasquatch, and that'll be a setting book, and then there's also a like Horror Headstone Hill was a box set adventure, which is like a big plot point campaign, but it'll include pawns, which are tag board miniatures, and an adventure with all the good stuff, all the little like the telegrams and letters and maps, all in a box set. So that's Night of the Wendigo, and Shane went up there to see if he could actually find some Wendigo. So that I think that'll be.
He never said if he succeeded or not.
he was cryptic on that, cryptic about the cryptids.
He was.
And,
Yeah.
I mean, the love the man for it. And so that's the next big Deadlands thing. On the companion front, like you mentioned at the beginning of the stream, Superpowers is out, Fantasy is out, Horror is getting printed as we speak. And then I believe the next one that we are going to polish up and push out will be Sci-Fi Companion. So Mike and Shane and Daryl and Simon have all been working hard on that one. When various parts of those have been working on other projects too, so it's definitely a team effort. But the Sci-Fi is a long-awaited companion, and this new iteration of companions have been really well received. So we put a lot of effort into those. There's a lot of play testing that goes on. That's the other thing too. I think that's as a fanboy of the system, that's how I got hired to be marketing manager. It's like I'm not only a manager, I'm also a client. I'm a big fan of Savage Worlds. I think the amount of play testing that Clint and Jody and Shane and Simon and the whole rest of the crew do on the rule sets to make sure that they are as polished as possible. And then kind of the advantage of doing crowdfunding too is we do community feedback. So we very, very soon after we have a crowdfunder, we will publish the PDFs in digital format for backers and let them play test it, whether that's simply reading through and finding typos or areas we need to clarify in the language or the rules, or whether it's actually getting into their tables and getting feedback on well, my group did this crazy thing that you never would have guessed, and see if that that breaks something that needs to be fixed or not. So that is a part of our publication process that we are. It adds a lot of steps and complexity and time, but it is worth it. I think in the end that everything still feels cohesive and approachable and Savage Worldsy. And so that's we're happy to do that work. Sorry, nothing gets out the door that hasn't been play tested thoroughly.
Yeah. So
that is also one of the in a perfect world kind of things on when we do make subtle changes to kind of big properties or big design things. There's trickle down on. Oh wait, if we change this, does that still work in over here? So there are a little bit of errata. Thankfully, like we are on the fifth printing of the Savage Worlds Adventure Edition core rules. I think it's only about 3 pages with even all the explanations involved now. Could be a little bit more, but we're pretty proud that we've kept that low for as long as we have. And a big part of that is just the community engagement that we get back and the feedback, and the fact that we do play a lot of Savage Worlds. So our designers, like from Jess, who everyone knows from helping out with the pawns, to Donald, they get involved in making sure that if they're working on a project, they get play tested. And some of the stuff got play tested just this last week at Gamehole Con. That's you might see in a future release. So
cool. And so JM, what's your hope for the future of Savage Universe? Like where do you see this going as we end up here?
I mean, I would just like it to continue to grow. I think part of the problem is still people in the Savage Worlds community not necessarily knowing that they can just reach out. We've got to, I think doing Swag Timber was a big help, because I emailed like everybody who's ever done a product for Savage Worlds Adventure Guild. I was like, hey, here's who I am. Here's what I'd like to do. And, I've been very heartened by the fact that I don't think we've had a week go by since we launched the stream that we did not have somebody to talk to on the Savage Universe stream. Like there have been multiple weeks where I've had to do multiple articles. As I said, we're booked out like the next 4 weeks on the Savage Universe stream. So I would just like to see that continue apace. Like I want people in the Savage Worlds community reaching out to me and saying, hey, I have this new thing. Hey, my book's now available in print. Hey, I've got a Kickstarter going on. Hey, I'm dropping this new show. And yeah, I've been very happy with how the community's interacted with Savage Universe.
Well, I'd like to thank you both for coming on the show, explaining a little bit more about Savage Worlds in general, and also Savage Universe, and all the opportunities that aspiring designers can take advantage of. And So I'll put all the links in the show notes underneath, and where people can find out more information. But Landauer and JM, thank you for coming on the Dieku podcast.
Thanks for having us,
Thank
and
you.
look forward to having your own setting come to Savage World, sir.
Eventually,
Yeah.
we'll make it so.